Do you ever find yourself comparing yourself to other people? Because I think a lot of people don't fully understand where they are financially. It is an individual game at the end of the day, whether it's a family or individual basis. And I know you get it. You go on, say, Instagram or Facebook, whatever it may be, you scroll, you see someone invest more than you, they've got a Porsche, they've got a Lamborghini, whatever it may be. You may think, I want that. We're going to look, and I'm hopefully going to blow minds here, the UK perspective around money, the wealth, where this country is probably failing, but actually, hopefully, fingers crossed, making you feel a bit better about yourself because you are on YouTube watching financial content. I know, we're talking to you here. So, this could be very, very interesting where you stack up versus the averages. The first thing we need to look at more than anything, and let's get really into this quickly, salary. It's kind of changed a little bit. And this is like the median date of weekly salary right now, currently. It's not bad. Not bad, but it could be better. Overall, though, full time earnings, as you can see here, it's changed a little bit. It's gone up by 4.3%, certainly over the last year or so. And I know it's a little bit older data, and it would be good to get the new data. But the situation we have is very, very clear here. Because what's important here, you might not feel rich earning that average of £40,000. That's because you're not. 1989, my parents bought my childhood home. It was for £43,000, roughly, give or take, at that time. I know, it's a long time ago. But we could get into the nuances of North versus South with property prices. I get it. We can also talk about salaries with that sense too. But the problem is, you might be comparing yourself to someone younger than you, older than you, whatever it may be, because career progression matters and the type of job you've got. But the reality is here, most people will show their wealth online when they don't actually have the money. We will talk about that in more detail in a second. But the point of the matter is, you have to focus on yourself. Salaries, on average, are not the best. They are better than they were, but in the UK especially, and other countries too in Europe, the cost of living has really damaged the amount of upside that we've got from those little pay rises we may or may not have had recently. This is why, my opinion, income is a terrible barometer. It really is the worst bit of kit you can look at for like, oh, how good am I doing? Because there's so many different factors, which we will talk about, which is why I'm talking about salary first. Because someone can be sensible with 35 grand a year on their own as a single person. That was me a couple of years ago. You could also talk about people with a combined of £70,000 income being terrible with their money. But are they terrible because they have to be terrible, or is it because they are in a situation where it's not great? What about kids? What does that have an effect? What about pets? What about bad financial decisions 10 years ago? What about maybe having to say care for other people in your family? There's so many different things here. But at the end of the day, we have to unpack it all. But let's look at age. Age is huge, in my opinion. Everyone has to start out. If you think from the age of 16 you can start working, you're not going to get paid much, myself included when I was younger, up to say maybe 25. You may be in uni in that time period. You may have low income, not many savings. You're probably renting out. You're probably giving your parents money. There's all kinds of stuff going on in life. It's not great, but you have to learn those basic money habits. In my opinion, my parents grounded me quite nicely with money. I paid a keep when I started earning a wage. Some people don't do that. And I get it, why some people may not want to do that. But if you're at a point in life where you're young and you're just getting your own money and you're lashing it all up the wall, whatever, you may not actually appreciate money when you actually do have to do that when you go to uni, or if you, so be it, move out eventually, which could be quite hard when you look at the times right now. The second part of life is the building stage, probably from when you've got your career sorted, from maybe the age of 25 to maybe the age of where I am now, or maybe younger than that. The thing is, your career progression will matter. You've got your job, you're starting to go up the ladder a little bit. You may be looking at depositing for a house or whatever that may be. But the thing is, people don't think of the other stuff too. Debt decisions, for example. I want to buy my first car, my proper car. I've worked for a while. Ooh, finance, let's go. You get the idea where I'm going with this. But I think the next stage after that is the squeezy, horrible, ugly stage where mortgages are going to become the front of your life. Kids, childcare, car costs, maybe dogs, cats, career pressures when you're off work, maybe some bad financial decisions that may well creep up on you, maybe aging parents as well, or other bits and pieces like that where you have to take time out your day to do stuff. That might cost you income. But then I think it eventually turns around when you get a bit older. Your mortgage repayments drop off a little bit. Maybe the savings that you've done over the course of time start mature, for example, or your investments. But that's the thing. We always say this kind of thing when you're older, you've always got more money because that's just how it is, because things kind of eventually vanish or evaporate. But not always the same kind of thing, is it, realistically? You got to think of the other side of the story too. Because when you get even older, you can talk about the protection side of it, where you can't really risk too much because you might lose it, or you're going to come up to retirement age. But maybe if you've got good common sense, you may have actually paid off your house by that point. But not everyone's got a house at that age. Everyone, as I say, is very, very different. My point is here, age has a huge context. Everyone is different based off age, whether it's career progression, career end, or in between, trying to juggle 12 kids and a bloody mortgage. But this is where, realistically, the video comes alive. Let's talk about savings. This is mental, isn't it? So, when we talk about emergency funds and savings, if you've got over £1,000 saved, you're probably in a good bracket, which is mad. 1 in 10 people have zero cash savings. 1 in 10. And another 21% have less than £1,000 to draw on an emergency. That's what I mean. You are already in a good bracket if you've got over £1,000 in your savings account. Put it that way. Now, I know £1,000 isn't enough, and it won't be enough, but it's something, isn't it? Also, 1 in 4 people in the UK have low financial resilience. Basically, that if something changes, if you have a cock up in life, you might go down a really bad path. Because once you start missing payments, could get ugly. If you go on my website, there's free tools here, right? But if you put your email address in, go to the budget planner. Just got to put this point out there. If you've not yet done this, do it. Understand where your money goes first. And then, let's be honest here, we'll talk about this in more detail in a second about debt and stuff. If you can save money, save it. That doesn't mean find £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 and just lump it. Progression. Over a 6 to 12 to 18 month period, put something away into an emergency pot and eventually it will grow. So on here, for example, I have a situation where you can put a savings goal tracker. Say if you do want to save, say that, based off the monthly contributions that you may want to put in there, it will tell you how many months it will take you to get there. So for example, if you want that, £300 a month from the £300 left over, no, sorry, £650 left over in terms of your account or whatever, you'll get there in 9 months, put it that way. You don't have to go balls deep. My point is just gradually nibble. And eventually, the less stress, it'll make it happen. So yeah, check out my budget planner. It's free to use. Don't pay for a bloody spreadsheet because that's stupid. Now let's talk about the reason why people don't have savings, which is debt. Really good income can hide a bad financial position, in my opinion. It may look good. You're earning 80 grand a year, right? But what about if you're full of debt? What about if you've got payments going out galore every single time? Because the situation is we have unregulated credit, especially in the UK. We have PayPal paying 3. We have the stuff like Klarna. And some companies will give you a discount. If you use Klarna and paying 3, you will give you an extra 5 or 10% off. Oh, great. Now, if you can manage that, that's fine, but people don't. It builds up, it piles up, and all of a sudden your outgoings are going to increase as your income stays probably the same for quite a while. Because when you add up, say, credit cards, car finance, Klarna, stuff like your sofa on DFS Finance, whatever it may be, all adds up. And if you've got 7 or 8 different outgoings based off stuff that you own but you're actually paying off, it's not always the best situation to be in because eventually it will catch up with you. There's nothing wrong with using a credit card, by the way. I openly use one, but I pay it off. I get the rewards and the perks and I use it for extra protection. But some people just don't do it. They just literally just use it as, oh, it's free money. Let's not the good thing to do. Put it this way, right? What would you rather have? Let's talk about person A. An income of 35 grand with savings of 5k with zero debt and basically investing a little bit of money. Okay. or person B. You're earning 70 grand, your savings are 500 quid, your car payment £600 a month, for example, and you may have about 8 or 9 grand on your credit card, but you then invest in nothing. Who's in a better financial position? Let me know in the comments. People look at this as an income problem. It's actually not, it's an expense problem, more to the point. If you have good expense management, it doesn't matter how much you earn, does it? If your life is good, it's fine because there's no extra stress to make more. Some people don't want to invest. Some people don't want career progression. Some people don't want to have luxury lifestyle stuff, right? Some people do. That's the it's all about context, nuance, decision making, personality, right? You get the idea. So when you talk about myself, I don't want to have stress. I don't want to understand where my next paycheck is coming from by working my tits off. No, I want to know what's coming in. I know that my expenses are going to be quite happy and I can invest what I want to invest. That's kind of me. I'm quite simple. I'm a simple creature. You got to also understand what is good debt and what is bad debt. A mortgage isn't really a bad debt realistically unless you're on a really, really shitty term. But normally it's quite cheap to kind of repay and you know what the levels are. However, car finance or whatever kind of car products are out there now, you can become, negative equity. You could lose your money very quickly. Bad investments. By the way, I love cars. I quite happily would buy something stupid, but I just don't. I did though, but I loved it. It wasn't even a bad financial decision. I'm rambling, sorry. We digress. But let's talk about something else. Pensions. Most people are saving, but not enough. That's quite clear. I've already talked about that. But there's also two sides of this story. There's a story of I do not want to put maximum in my workplace pension because I want the money today versus, say, 20, 30, whatever many years down the line. I get it. Workplace pensions. 89% of people now, roughly, give or take, are enrolled into the workplace pension scheme as of 2024. That is because they've introduced, from 2012, the automatic enrollment. That's what AE is, right? So that's that. So it has massively improved. That's good. But 1 in 3 of adults, as it stands right now, is less than 10 grand saved in their pension contributions because they basically go, I'll put it in the minimums, please. Thank you. Because let's be honest here, the minimum contribution is not enough. We know that. Pensions are never going to outperform markets. They're quite slow. But if you've worked for a place for 20 years and you're putting decent contributions in that compound, yeah, you could have a decent pot. But as I say, people go, I want to boycott that a little bit and just put the really minimum in on low risk, don't quite understand it, don't speak to HR, tick a few boxes, sign a little squiggle. People just don't care enough. But certainly, as you can imagine here, this has massively improved. Like it has improved. But there's also a situation of ineligible employees. If you're earning too little, you don't get a part of the scheme, unfortunately. You need to then do your own thing. But if you're earning less money, you've got no savings, you've got no emergency fund, you can't put it into a SIP or invest. Oh my, whole world of bollocks. I know, it's fucked. In terms of pension, just to keep this really simple, you need to ask a couple of questions. One, are you enrolled in one? What percentage are you contributing? At least you need to know that. And also find out what your employer is also adding to that because they will add something to it, whether it's half that amount or not. Who knows? They're all different. But you also need to know what is it invested in. Some of them are cash. They're crap. Make sure it's in the stock market at least and find out what risk profile you're on. If you're younger, you can maybe go a little bit higher risk, but if you're older, you may want to tune that down a little bit. But another thing as well, find out if you've got any old ones floating around. You can consolidate them in your own personal SIP and you can kind of manage that a bit better. My other half downstairs, she found 6 grand in a workplace pension. She worked at a place for 2 years. That's quite good. Got it now in her own personal SIP, so it's an extra bit of pot of money. But I know this is boring and noddy for some people, but you need to have something. I know, like, if it's personal pension, that's probably, you can manage it yourself. And I think a lot of people get confused between workplace pension and SIP versus, say, the state pension. We're not talking state pension. That can get to fuck. We're not bothered about that because we don't know what's going to happen. But that is a possibility. You could, if you're at a certain age point, get that. Me, I'm 35. Do I see myself in 37 years getting a state pension? I don't know. That number will probably change as well, by the way, just saying. Now, let's talk about the nitty gritty of it, because when we talk about where we are in life, do you have investments? Oof. Now, I'll put Snowball on the screen. There's a link below to this. This is a brilliant platform. This will help you with your investment journey. We're going to talk about something really simple here. ISAs. investing, right? Stocks and shares ISA, if you've got one, let me know in the comments. You are by far in the minority here of being good. Good tick in the box. Because what's scary, right? There's 15 million people in the UK as of 2 years ago. This is the data, right? Have an ISA product. An ISA product, not just like this, or the stocks and shares ISA, for example. 66% of people have it as a cash ISA. There's a lot of people that don't actually have these stocks and shares ISAs. It's such a low number. I think it's like stupidly low. Basically, as well, there's only 61% of people currently, right now, who have more than £10,000 investable assets. 61% of people. The fuck? What what are people doing? It's mad when you think about it, right? This is again just showcasing how poor the education system is in the UK for like people not wanting to invest. There's too many disclaimers, too many risks. Ugh, it's horrible, right? So when we talk about how many people that have a stocks and shares ISA, it is stupidly low. The amount of money in stocks and shares ISAs are overall, when you look at it versus Europe, and I've talked about this before, it is really low. Like we are really behind. But this is why I love you lot, because this is, when we talk about you're already here, you're already watching the channel, you're already ahead of the curve. Not because you're thinking that you're rich or you're going to become rich. It's more the fact that you are in tune with the world. You are trying to make your crust go longer, further, better, if that makes sense. Because long-term money sat in your bank account rotting away, not doing anything, is going to eventually harm you. Cash is for emergency funds. Short-term bills, knowing bills, or maybe a house deposit. Investing for the next 10 to 20 plus years, at least, wealth building, beating inflation over time. Cash, I know, it feels safe, and a lot of people in the UK don't want to invest, but at the end of the day, you've got to do something, or, as I say, you will just eventually sink or spend it. Probably a bit of both, really. You'll probably spend it while trying not to sink. There you go. Now, on my website, I built a load of tools to help you financially. This offer ends soon. ETF screeners, there's understanding your own portfolio, as well as making better decisions with my own exclusive content and other bits and pieces of what I do. I am also looking to add a Discord very, very soon. There will be a free one, then there'll be a paid one. There'll be other tools coming as well. I've got a couple of ideas up my sleeve, which I will be revealing very, very soon. But these are 25% off launch discount, and that will grandfather you in for a year, and then it will go to normal prices. Then you are covered for life. That price plan will never change. But there'll be 2 extra courses coming. One of them will be about personal finance, and the other one will be a good one because it will help you make more income through the world of the internet. Now you've done so, please do slap a like on the video, comment what your thoughts are and where you are in life, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel for more. Over 6,000 subs. Massively appreciate you all. And also, watch this bad boy. This is a pretty mental video, but it will definitely get you in tune with the markets.